Hi, I am Kedger on Wheels, and today we will be reviewing the Monimoto MM7. So, the MM7, this one, is the new and updated version from the old one, the MM5, which I also reviewed. And right off the bat you can see the difference. The main difference is a new form factor. This is a lot wider, but a lot shorter and a lot thinner. Why? Among other upgrades, let me just put this in, among other upgrades, this one is now using AA batteries. These. The old one used to use CR123A batteries, which are a pain to get and really expensive unless you order them from China, where you can then get a bunch of them for very little money. This is a lot easier to get batteries too and to change them. Even if you're on a big trip or on the go, you just go into any supermarket and you have new batteries. So because of these two large batteries here, this requires a new form factor. How do they do this? The last one had that disadvantage of that weird battery that they insisted on putting there, and I almost mentioned that as a downside, but I didn't, because I understood that those batteries, those CR123As, have a higher voltage and a lot of juice on them, and they needed that to power the GPS, the SIM cards, all the antennas, etc. So it required all of that juice. This one doesn't require all that juice. Why? Because amongst the other improvements, this one also has, I'm just going to put it here, also has a new improvement where you have an eSIM instead of a separate SIM card, so you can't change the SIM, which is not quite a problem, and LTE-M support. LTE-M is a special band specially made for these devices, for Internet of Things. So these draw less power, they boot up faster, they connect to the network relatively faster, so it's really made for Internet of Things, for stuff that is not a cell phone. And because of that, they could downgrade or get these new batteries, which is not actually a downgrade. I much prefer these. This is way better like this. The SIM card not being changeable is, you might think, a problem, but not quite, because apart from the whole drawing less power thing, not being able to change the SIM card prevents an issue that, according to Monimoto, was actually pretty common, where people would yank out the other SIM card, put in one of theirs, and then when they would move abroad, they'd get no service, because their data-only SIM card only worked in their own countries. This SIM card, this eSIM, is already set up to work in all of Europe, most of Eastern Europe, at least 6 or 7 countries in Asia, Australia, New Zealand, the US, and probably South America. Go check out on the website. I'm doing this out of the top of my head, and out of the top of my head I'm not 100% sure this particular version works in the US for reasons I'm not sure. Go check it out. But at least with this you are sure it's going to work in a bunch of countries with no other question to ask. Now, cost. It does cost a lot, yes, but it's an investment so that you can go grab your bike in the case something bad happens to it. And there's also a not quite hidden cost, to warn you about that the SIM card you have to pay about €3 a month. It's paid yearly. It's 2.5 or 3 euros a month. Your mileage may vary, depends on the country, etc. Blah blah blah. Because you have to pay for the data for the SIM cards. You need to do that in every other device that's competing with this. So it is what it is. Now, the thing with the batteries is that we're back in the 80s. Battery power. Why? It's very clever indeed, because they were smart on this. Any self-respecting thief is going to yank out the seat and see if there's any wires coming out of the battery. If there are, he's going to cut them, and if he's in a rush, he's just going to unplug the battery and just roll the bike somewhere. So that defeats a ton of other GPS trackers. Not this one. Also, he can yank out the seat and not find anything, because if you're clever, you don't put this under the seat. You put this somewhere else. As long as it can see the sky, there's no metal on top of it, you can put it under a fairing or any other creative spot that you might think of. so it's not easily detectable, and so it's a silent guardian for your bike. Word of warning, this does not prevent your bike from being stolen. What it does is allow you to go grab it, hopefully with the cops, or run out of your house naked with a frying pan, which I don't advise, but if you're particularly adventurous, go ahead. Someone might get a frying pan to the face. Totally worth it, totally well deserved. Unless, if you pair it with a chain or a disc lock, then this is going to alert you when they start moving the bike around trying to cut it, because this is enough to trigger it if you put sensitivity on high. So they start moving around the bike and it will fire and you'll get an alarm. The alarm works in a very simple way. It will just literally call you. You will receive a phone call. And once you answer it, it's just a little robot that says alarm and then hangs up. But you know it's from Onimoto because hopefully you saved the number. So you can go run to the bike. The app then gives you an alarm also saying bike is moving, and I'll send you the GPS location presently, and after a minute or so you'll get the GPS location of the bike. The whole call part, the alarm part, takes about from 30 seconds, my best test, to about 2 minutes, my worst test. It depends on how fast it boots up, how fast it grabs the 4G signal, etc. But it calls you before trying to get the GPS signal. So it calls you immediately, and then now the owner is alerted, let's get the GPS signal going, and we'll tell them where it is a bit later on. You might consider that, oh, that's too long, but it is what it is. The phone call comes from Lithuania, if I'm not mistaken. And if you ever had to make an international phone call, you know it just takes time. So that's the bulk of the time it takes to alert you, is that, basically. The other part where it works really well is that it uses this little thingy, a key fob, to alert you. If this, when the bike moves or when the device is shaken, if this is nearby, it does not trigger. If this is not nearby, it alarms. Another thing which is very smart is that you can use your cell phone as a key fob in case you've forgotten your key fob. You can use your cell phone, connect to it via Bluetooth, and then it knows you're here. The issue with this is that it makes testing this really, really hard. Because actually managing to do an alarm, it is smart enough to not allow me. For example, if I connect to it and then disconnect, I can move it around. It's not going to trigger because it knows I'm next to the bike because I just disconnected. I think it has an internal timer before it actually starts alerting. This is clever so that say I remove the key fob and I have just moved out of range and I move the bike or something, it prevents. It's clever in preventing false positives. And from other tests I've done, it's really clever in doing actual test firing. The installation part is really simple. It is literally just this. Yeah, it's just that. Well, not just that, obviously. You will want to hide this a little bit better, like under a fairing or here or whatever. It does have some detents, so you can put some reusable zip ties on it and put it somewhere. But yeah, this is a really good system and like it quite a lot. It does not prevent theft except in one case, which is common here in Portugal. Let's say you're in an apartment building and you have your bike on the garage. Here it's common that they break into the garage and they break your bike out of it. In that case, this will work because while they are moving your bike around inside the garage, you will get the alarm as long as this reaches the cell phone. So if your cell phone has signal down there, this should have, and you'll get an alarm and you can come down and ask them exactly why they are moving your bike around. Again, frying pans in your underpants into their faces, totally worth it, totally not advisable, totally dangerous, but we all know we are going to do that, right? Yeah, I hope no one gets hurt because of me. But yeah, it is money. It is a lot of money. It does cost monthly, but I heartily advise this. This is a really good system. In fact, when I get a loaner bike for a couple of days, I usually yank this out of my bike. I have a secret hiding spot which is relatively easy to get it out, and I move it to the loaner bike, just for peace of mind, just to make sure that it's safe. So if anything happens, I can find a way to get it back, instead of just going back to the dealership and say, hey, the bike's gone, I don't know what happened. Instead of that, hey, someone stole the bike, call the cops, here's the location. Either I get it back or the dealership does, whatever, so I get some safety. Okay, it's really nice. I would waste money more on this than on some pretty levers or something like that. Safety, very important. I like it quite a lot. And so that's it. Cage, you're out.